I'm about to get carpal tunnel doing this. Shared experience. Damn it.
I love their logo.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, solid.
Oop, helps if I actually blow up all the screens like I'm supposed to. Hi, everybody. We are back with another week of of Tales from the Tavern. It's not a week of Tales from the Tavern without some minor technical glitch. So anyway, here we are. We are back. And I've got a great group of people again this week. I'm so excited. Most of them have been on when we were on previous channels, except for Bees, who is making his second appearance on this channel. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have everybody just go around and introduce themselves and tell us a little about who they are and what they do and where we can find them online. So, Bees, we're going to start with you.
Of course, I'm spamming on Discords, and then you make me do stuff.
Well,
Curse you. Curse.
That's how I go, man.
Hey everybody, Big B's here. How's it going? I am a variety streamer, which is turning more and more into a spooky game streamer because people love scaring the boobs off me. So, yeah, it's my channel's going that way. And it's fine. It's fine. I don't need a heart. It's all right. But I've played TTRPGs. Well, I played D&D like years ago, but recently started playing TTRPGs on streams, and it's so much fun. I love it, and I love this channel.
And we love you. And for those of you keeping score, Bees is also going to be part of the one-shot that we're running next Friday, the 15th, which is super exciting. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So come back and check us out then. I'll give all the details later on. Next, we are going to go to Adam. Adam, tell us a little about who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Adam. It's nice to meet everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am a podcaster mainly and a streamer secondary. I stream on a channel called The Good Great Friends. Mainly a lot of retro gaming, but right now I'm doing some Switch games. Just having a ton of fun doing that. And then I also have had several podcasts in the past, but my main one right now is called DM's Treehouse. It's an actual play podcast featuring myself and 3 of my friends. And we each have a campaign that we're DMing for each other. And after an arc is finished, we switch to the next campaign. So we have 4 campaigns that are congruent, and then it goes back around to the first campaign. We're just about done. We're about halfway through season 2 right now. And if you like Pokemon, my campaign is up next. In fact, it'll be released shortly. But it's not the Pokemon you grew up with. It is a bit darker. It's kind of the Pokemon that I wish that we had right now. It's kind of, you play as the Pokemon and you are in a war-torn Kanto. So, anyways, that's me. Thanks.
I am intrigued by
awesome.
that. That sounds really cool.
Tell us
For
more.
sure.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and hanging out tonight. Next, we are going to go over to Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff, also known as the Mighty Jerd on all the socials. If you want to check me out, I am a lifelong D&D nerd. Started playing back in 1980, not to date myself, but yeah, love the tabletop role-playing games, specifically fantasy stuff. I don't do much streaming. I did participate last season on Encounter Roleplay. If you follow that channel, doing their Flames of Freedom campaign, that was really fun to do. And yeah, just follow my Twitter if you want to see what I'm up to. I'm always talking about fitness, martial arts, role-playing games, comic books, all the nerdy stuff.
Love it. I love it. And just all around fun stuff to follow on Twitter anyway. So thank you so much for coming to hang out. I was glad we caught each other on, passing ships on Twitter the other day when we were able to connect and schedule you back.
I'm looking forward to it. I had a great time last time.
Yeah. And Waffles and Syrup, I'm going to let you two go at the same time. So,
and fight.
Ready and go.
You go ahead.
All right. So hi everybody. I am Syrup, the co-founder of Waffles Maple Syrup. I am a player in Waffles' amazing campaigns. We have a Twitch channel as well where we stream our campaigns, and we then convert all those lovely campaigns into podcast form as well. We recently finished up our over year-long Pathfinder 2E campaign, and we're super excited for that. We're currently on a little bit of a break, but we are about to jump in very soon to a Starfinder campaign, and I will let Waffles tell you guys a little bit more.
I'm Waffles, the other co-founder of Waffles Maple Syrup. I'm the GM, audio editor, and yeah, like she was talking about, we finished up our season 1, and we are in story, like in canon, switching from Pathfinder 2E to Starfinder. Gonna be different characters, but the story that they ended with in Pathfinder 2E leads up to the gap and Starfinder, basically, like in canon.
Very cool.
Aside from that, during our hiatus, we have been doing a bunch of stuff for charity. That's another thing we like to do a lot. And yeah, that's it.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much. This one on the books for a while because Syrup said, we're on a break. We want to come back. And I said, okay, well, we can do that.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you, Luna.
Anytime. That's what I always tell people too. I'm like, if you know you want to come back and you know you have a break coming up, let me know and we'll get you booked on. So,
to clarify, we usually stream on Sundays, so we can never come on here. So I'm really glad this worked out.
Me too. I'm super excited. All right. Well, I've been trying to come up with a good open question this whole time, and unfortunately, I always go back to one. Is a kind of a classic. I ask it all the time, so I'm gonna put it out there for you guys. When you play at a table and you roll dice, do your dice have to match?
Match
do you have a set that matches?
Multiple sets that match. Correct.
I was about to say, I am actually as a GM, I am very specifically a not matcher. Like I will be like, all right, this D20 rolls high. This D6 rolls low. I know what I need for what situation. Let's take the red one and let's roll their death or something like that. That's how I play with physical dice.
That's awesome.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you go.
Okay. No, you go. I am definitely a matcher. In fact, I am a dice hoarder. It's how one of my love languages is buying myself dice. And I love myself very much. In fact, usually every character needs to have their own set of dice for me too. I'm one of those people. So imagine in a Pokemon podcast where you get multiple Pokemon and they each need their own set of dice too. So I have lots of dice. I have a lot of dice.
I got a lot of dice. I'm the odd person. I'm very utilitarian. I don't care. Like, I just grab a handful of dice. I don't care what color they are, how big they are. It doesn't matter. I'm just rolling whatever. I don't do the dice jails or the matching sets, and I know people love them, but yeah, I know, I see it. I've got the same one. I've got the same one back here, and it's just filled with random dice because
I have each number in its own slot. Like, I'm trying to keep it all organized.
I respect it. I just can't participate in that kind of organization.
No, that's fine. Something we've. Go ahead.
Have you guys seen this thing? I found it on Twitter. I'm gonna pull it out here. It's by a, I don't know if I'm supposed to do this. No one's sponsored, but it's by a company called Growcraft, and it's this dice compendium.
Oh my god,
That's
You get
so
your dice
cool.
in there, right? And
That's
it's got
nice.
it's laser cut. Takes forever to take, but each thing comes out, and the D20's in front, and then you got the rest of your dice in back. So not only does it
Wow.
store your dice that way, but if you're like, oh, I need a set, I can just pop this out and head to the game. It's
I'm gonna
awesome.
get that link from you after.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's not cheap, and it takes forever because well, it depends on where you are. It's out of the U.S., but man, it is super cool, and I love it. Anyways, not sponsored. Sorry.
I start out with a full set until they betray me.
Yep.
And they have to learn. They have to learn the hard way. So I will start a game with a full set, like, yeah, these are my good ones. I'm gonna roll everything. Like 9 episodes in, I've got a random D20. I mean, I've got a random 20-sided. I've got like 3 D6s over here that will just be used interchangeably, and it all. And then I could have that whole thing, and I get 2 ones like in a row, and I will throw all those dice into a corner and then just start brand new.
So it's really dangerous for this habit that we have of dice, because unlike Waffles, like, we know, like, I love dice. Waffles and I have recently started making dice, which is horrible and amazing at the same time, because now I have access to all these dice, and it never ends. But yeah, we make some pretty cool ones, and I'm really excited. They're gonna be out in public soon, so I
Nice.
that a little.
No, I love that. I saw the last set that you had shared with me, and I was like, so cool.
We're ready.
I'm in love. Excellent. Well, as a reminder for our chat, for anybody who is visiting for the first time, we take questions from chat, so please feel free to drop them into chat, and our mods will make sure that we get them so that our guests can all answer them. And yeah, otherwise we will just keep pressing on with our own conversation and talk about whatever we feel like.
Can I ask a question? Because it came to my head as
Yeah, go
I
for
hear I'm not going to say chaotic evil, but the one that you don't want to keep your dice sets together or use whatever. I'm joking. But do you just you have a big, like a 5-gallon bucket of dice, and you're like, I gotta find a D6, or do you at least separate out like?
I separate. I'm not an animal. I separate them. Thank you very much. I'm not that guy at the table who's like, hold on, give me 20 minutes to find a die. No, of course I separate them. Come on, man.
No.
I
would have to answer.
I kind of liked it if you didn't. Like, you just hold up like a pail. Hold on. If I'm a greedy
You bring the pail.
I'm gonna need all of you guys to stop dice shaming me. All right. I ain't got time to separate all these dice. Right. I have a
drawers on your desk.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call Waffles out because he just leaves them lying around on his desk, and he's just like,
That's
"Oh,
true.
where's my dice? Where did I put this D6? Where's my
Where'd that D6 go?
Unacceptable.
I mean, if I can't find it, it's not worth rolling, right?
Exactly.
There you go.
I have several workarounds for my dice. So a lot of people have seen me show off this dice vault, which I got from Wormwood Gaming a couple years ago, and holds my metal set, which I don't want to dump out all over my computer because that'll be very loud. And then this one is, as of right now, empty because it's waiting on a set that's supposed to get here. But this is my set for my my dice vault from Arcane Spectacles. My wooden dice vault from Arcane Spectacles.
My dice set, my vault.
Yeah! Yay! That was the one that we got in our giveaway.
So you guys want to know what kind of godless monster I am?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When I play, I have bag o' dice.
Oh my god.
Literally just bag o' dice. And then if I don't find what I'm looking for there, I have these 2 buckets to dig through. And there are miniatures and just like other things with random dice in there.
Not
Adam,
all
you
zeros
asked for
are
this.
This
I
one
want
got
you
a
to know
charger
you
for
asked
some
for this.
reason.
But
And,
see that makes you the perfect person to come play at their house. So I was my first game when I was 13. I remember going to my friend's uncle's house and we were sitting down to play D&D, and I was like, I gotta admit, I don't have any dice. And he was like, oh, it's fine. And he brings out you remember when people used to keep Hot Wheels cars and they just keep them in a big popcorn tin or something? Yeah. He brings out a big popcorn tin about 3/4 full of dice, and he's like, just pick some.
That's true. That is an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
Well,
I can guarantee you there is at least 2 full sets in here.
Yeah.
There's so much dice, and you only have 2. I'm gonna fight you right now, Big. I'm gonna fight you.
So this for my sets that
I'm
don't,
like anxious.
My sets that don't get to live in a dice vault, I have this dice bag, but you'll see it's all nicely compartmentalized, so I can actually keep sets in each little pocket, which makes me feel better about keeping them all in the same dice bag because they all get their own little pocket.
Little pockets in it,
yeah, and then I can also, this is one that opens up completely flat, so I can use it as a rolling mat too, which is really nice.
Oh, no, that's nice.
And then it also has a map of Middle Earth on it. That's what's on the other side, is the map of Middle Earth.
You know what mine does? Mine is clear, so I can see what I'm grabbing.
I like it.
Very utilitarian. I like it.
Yeah.
I also have a bag with separate compartments. See, watch.
I mean,
oh wait, hold on. What just happened? Oh, Adam blocked me on all social media. Okay, cool.
I remember back in the day, like when I started playing, like everyone had the dice bag of choice was a Crown Royal bag. Like,
yeah.
They have that.
They were the greatest. Yeah, I 100% wish I still had one. I know I could go get one, but
I'm about to say it's not easy. I mean, it's not difficult.
I don't know where it came from. Like, I don't think anybody knows. It's just there.
Right. Yeah. I was 10. How did I have a Crown Royal bag?
It's weird. You had a real hard childhood.
But it's one of those things, like, everyone eventually, role-playing games in general are not super expensive to enter into. But once the hobby gets going, everyone finds that thing they want to spend their money on. And some people are dice and dice towers and dice rolling trays and dice vaults and things like that. And other people like me, I spend all my money on like Dwarven Forge and Train, stuff like that. And so rather than Wormwood and things, I mean, I'm not dice shaming anyone. It's just we all have our thing.
Yeah.
I think we all start with one thing and then we lose control and it builds up to all of them.
Yeah,
we just
that
start
second
collecting
mortgage
every
kicks
aspect.
in and you're like, okay, I gotta.
Yeah. Or we'll start with one thing and somebody is like, hey, check out this really cool other thing that I got. And you're like, oh, I need that other thing too. And then it starts you down the path of collecting, minis or dice vaults or whatever it may be. I have 4 dice vaults from Arcane Spectacles. 4. I don't need 4. But I have them.
Oops, how did that get in my cart? Oops,
yeah, pretty much. Oh, well. All right. Well, we've started getting a couple of questions in from chat, actually. So, we got one question from Zeal Zaddy, which I'm going to modify the question a little bit to put it out there to everybody. So the question originally was, as a viewer of streams, what gets you to drop bits in other people's streams? And then he said, well, eating critical hit cookies, of course. But what I would like to know is if you're watching a stream where you can drop bits or, make a donation of, channel points or something like that affects the TTRPG stream that you're watching, what kind of things would you like to see that would make you to do that stuff? Like, what kind of things would encourage you to say, like, yeah, that's worth my 200 bits or something like that?
That's valid.
Well, I've always liked the you can change the outcome of a roll if you do X amount. We did that Christmas stream, right?
Yeah.
That one shot, and I'm pretty sure it would have been half as long and a total failure had not the chat saved you multiple times via channel points and stuff.
To be fair, everybody else but Rusty would have died because Rusty is the GOAT. So.
Oh, sure,
she's just
whatever you need to say. But
I'm just saying. Yeah. Well, yeah, we would have all died in a fiery crash very early.
I think.
I feel.
Go for it, Beast.
Oh no, I was gonna say if it wasn't for the chat and redemption and stuff.
I come at this question in two perspectives, so it's actually kind of rough because one, as a stream runner, there are certain things that like I have concerns for, which is if this is our long-standing campaign that we're talking about here, I want it to have its own integrity, and I want chat to feel like they can absolutely interact and affect and be involved, but I don't want to change too many outcomes. So what we've done so far is allow one giving, like per person, everybody can do it once, to give out a hero point to one of our characters, but once per stream, to kind of try to mitigate that. That still kind of keeps some interaction and can definitely save a life, so it definitely can affect huge things. But now if we're talking about one-shots and like charity streams and that kind of stuff, like that's it, all bets are off. We have stopped the game to sing Disney songs. That's to the point that it's gotten, so we do everything that we can possibly think would entertain everybody.
I was about to say, when someone drops $500 for you to sing a Disney song, you stop and you sing a Disney song.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely fair.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'm very similar to that. As a viewer, I think the quickest thing to get me to drop bits is probably good content or like a character that I like to follow. Like as a GM, I don't really like affecting the game that much. Like I'm not gonna drop $5 to affect the game, but when someone's character makes a really good decision, I'll drop $5 like in a heartbeat.
Nice.
As like a reward for certain behavior.
Yeah, like
activity.
thank you for giving me this content that I'm not paying for. Like
Yeah, I would have to say it's based off of really just the DM. Like I trust me, I know I've DM games. I know it's difficult. I know how much time and work goes into it. I respect DMs to just an extremely high degree. But just as a random viewer, if you're missing that oomph, that's something about it. Like you need to be really telling that story and into it, and I need to see the players engaged as well as you engaged telling the players, and then you've got me hooked, and I'm there. I mean, I'm hook, line, and sinker. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me. One shot, like Syrup said, one shots are different. Like I love throwing things at one shots, especially charity one shots, because it's fun. My favorite one they did, they really hit me hard. I was doing a Jasper's Game Day stream, and I forget. I think Dan Dillon was DMing it, and they kept hitting us with donations to make us change our accents, and we were just rolling voices and
That's
voices.
Fantastic.
And I mean, it landed on I had to talk like a horse with the neighing and everything in it, and it was fun, like because it was for charity, and everyone was super into it. For a regular game, though, I'm not. I don't. Now, granted, I don't follow a lot of streams. Don't have the time. But when I do, I tend to not donate for specific things. If it's a story and a group of people that I think are doing great, I would rather just subscribe to the channel or send a donation and not worry about a specific thing to influence the game. It's just, I would like to support the thing that you're doing, because honestly, as a DM, I think it would bother me a bit to constantly have rolls futzed with. I would just want the game to roll out as it is. But that's just me.
I agree with that a lot, for sure.
we used to, on our previous channel that I was in a couple of campaigns on, we used to do, people could donate channel points to give players a +1 to add to their rolls if they wanted to. And it could be used for, like, almost anything, skill checks, you know, attack rolls but not damage, things like that. Like, we had kind of a line about what it was that we could do. And what we ended up finding was the problem is that people, like, eventually just got to the point where they had built up so many channel points that they were giving one every episode, and people were ending up getting 10, 12, 15 +1s a night, and we weren't rolling the dice that many times, you know?
Right.
So,
and it matters less at that point.
Right, exactly. And so we were trying to come up with a way, like, well, can I give, like, if I have 2 extra +1s, can I give those to so-and-so and have it equal a +1 for them, you know? Something like that, but it really made things really challenging for the player. And we kind of felt bad because we were like, we want to use the +1s. We want to recognize that people are spending their channel points here, but I didn't roll the dice 10 times tonight. I didn't have 10 things to check or whatever it was. So that was really, that was something that we really found was challenging. But like you were saying, Jeff, you know, anytime I'm watching a channel, if it's a content creator that I really enjoy, or if they're doing a charity stream and it's something that I really like feel is a valid, I don't want to say valid, but a valuable thing that I would normally want to contribute to anyway, then that's the type of stuff that would get me to, you know, hit the subscribe button or throw some bits their way or whatever it may be. So
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So there.
We said it.
All right, let's see. Next question we got was, let's see. What is your favorite NPC style companion in any system that you have played? That's what the question says, so take that as you will.
NPC style companion. Is this like, this sounds like it has to be like an animal companion, a familiar, or like some systems have ways to have like squires or something.
Yeah, it just says NPC style companion in any system, so sure? Yeah.
All right, I'll go. I got it. I used to play a lot of I'm gonna get off the D&D train for a second here. I used to play a lot of Champions hero system superhero games. And I used to love, because you could do sidekicks, you could do your Lois Lanes, your Jimmy Olsens, your whatever, as part of your character building, and they were always a disadvantage because, you know, they're always getting kidnapped by the villain, and that would give you more points to spend on your hero because you also had a negative attached to your character, and you could do some really cool stuff with that. I kind of miss that. That was a really fun element of that game.
That's neat.
I'm gonna kind of piggyback off what you're going for, I think, and Delta Green, they have this thing called bonds, and I haven't got to play enough to get into the downtime of it, but basically Delta Green is a Call of Cthulhu, kind of like 1980s. You're going out, you're fighting against the mysteries of the world, but you don't have the powers to stop it. You can just slow it down. Like, it's one of those type of horror games. But basically, after you go out on a mission, you come back to your bonds, and you get to roll like, well, do I choose between my wife, my son, or my dog? And like, and Southern guy, I have to throw all 3 of those things in there. But you, like, 2 of them suffer, 1 of them gets good, and you get to role play that scene out based on very specific rules from the game. And like, I think it's just a good aspect to add into downtime type stuff, to like know that, oh, well, instead of seeing my therapist for the crazy stuff going on in my head, I went out and fought crazy stuff. Like, and see how that comes out in mechanics and all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. I don't think that I've had many like companion type characters. Definitely not in like D&D, Pathfinder, that type of a thing. Clearly not playing enough Rangers, but then outside of that, I don't know. I can't say that I've had any.
Same.
Same boat, yeah.
That doesn't mean that I don't want like a pet tiger, because I will do that everywhere I go. But but that's just me in real life, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, if it's just animals, I can't really comment because I've never had like a little animal buddy. But if it's just any kind of like any associate, like someone that's tied to you in some way, then I would have to say it's either between like the sassy best friend that you've grown up with that gives you shit for it and kind of keeps you grounded, or that bash bro kind of best friend, that not best friend but like rival, who you don't have any animosity towards, but just kind of keeps you just have that what am I looking for? What's the word?
Competition.
Yes, you just have that competition with that pushes you both forward.
Right.
Can I ask regarding the animal companions? Because it just came up in my head, and Luna shut me down if you have a different question.
Nope, you're fine.
But-
Go ahead.
The classic animal companions in TTRPGs, how do you guys feel about whether or not they should take damage as well as be like in your party? Like, I'm thinking Jester from Critical Role right now, and her little ferret, don't yell at me, Sprinkle, and it just like constantly surviving. Like, is that something that you like in your games? You hand wave, or is this something that like you're like, no, they're there, they take damage?
I'll wait for this one.
I mean, I think it really depends on the tone of your game, to be honest with you.
True, that's fair.
At first, I thought with Critical Role and Sprinkle, like I thought it was, I kind of was rolling my eyes, like, how is that damn ferret still alive? But now, because it's been a running joke for so long, now it's just funny.
Yeah.
But I mean, I tend to lean more towards, look, if you want to bring an animal or a child with you into peril, that is on you, and you can suffer the mental consequences when I, as the DM, drop the hammer of God on that creature if you are foolish enough to put them in Fireball's way. Like, I think that's just the way I roll. But, in a fun, lighthearted game, probably not. I don't know. But my players also think I'm an ass. So, I mean...
So there's that.
That means you're a good DM.
Exactly.
I'll take that. I'm gonna clip that and send it to my players. Thank you.
Well, I mean, think about. I'm gonna ignore the question for half a second and just continue on that line. Think about it, and this is something I've always told my players. If you think I'm an ass and you're still here, I have to be a really good DM, right?
That's not a bad question.
As far as the animal companions and like childs and stuff like that, my main rule I try to abide by most of the time is if they're doing something, like if they're allowed to do stuff, whether that's damage, grab items, whatever, then they're allowed to take damage. Period. Now, if you're dishing them off every fight, you're like, all right, go run away. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to get eaten while they run away. Like,
That's fair.
I'm just not going to do that to you.
Makes sense.
Now, caveat to that is if it's a mission to like take a child somewhere, then
That's different.
Yeah, that's different, obviously.
Escort missions.
Heck yeah.
I think that I like that there's like mechanics, at least in Pathfinder 2E, for your familiars, very, very specifically for that. We got to like play with that a little bit in our last campaign, and I think it makes a distinct difference. Like I really appreciated that in Pathfinder 2E from jumping from D&D to that. It like made it cool.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody's like, okay, good. Next question. Let's see. What was your favorite character almost death? It's always a tough one because
All right.
nobody likes
Yeah.
likes that.
As a GM, I'm going to use one of my players' almost deaths from our last campaigns. That's spoilers for Time Has Passed. If you don't want to know, feel free to close your ears. We had a moment where somebody was about to die in X fight, and the cleric wanted to roll a reaction basically on to revive them. There's a reaction spell that you can revive someone or keep them from dying. The thing is, it happened at the same time, and the cleric was going to fall unconscious. It was from an AoE attack, and the cleric was going to fall unconscious under the same attack. And so I said, okay, roll me a reflex save to see if you can do it. And I was like, we were really high level. If anyone knows Pathfinder, numbers get high. I was like, DC 40. Cleric literally on podcast on mic goes, well, only way I can do it's a nat 20 then. We're all playing VTT. We can all see the rolls. He rolled. I was like, okay. He rolls it. Natural 20.
Wow.
And he gets to save the guy's life. So
Before the cleric going unconscious, which was great.
yeah, and then he fell unconscious.
Yeah, that was an epic moment for sure.
I have one. Again, as a DM, I'm DMing this Dungeon World campaign on the DM's Trios Patreon. It's called The Fallen Hero. It is in the Zelda universe. It's kind of the story between the end of Ocarina of Time and before Link to the Past. If you know anything about Zelda, the timelines get all funky, right? Well, this is the one where if Link dies in the final battle of Ocarina of Time, that leads to Link to the Past. Yes, anyway. Spoilers to that N64 game.
Spoilers.
Sorry.
I was making my way to it. Jeez.
Yeah.
There goes the rest of my week.
Yeah.
I'm just in the water temple. Hold on.
I just see a 64 controller fly across big screen. Done. I'm not doing it. Thanks a lot. But we have one of our characters, or one of the players, Scott, is playing a Stelphos Paladin. Stelphos being the skeleton characters in Zelda, and we were fighting one of the big bads, and he had gotten down to 0 health. Now in Dungeon World, if you're not familiar, if you die, you make what's called a roll that's the last breath, and it's just a straight 2d6. It's powered by the Apocalypse system, so 2d6. There's no additions. It's like your character goes to the great beyond, the gates to the afterlife, and they meet death. And it was just it's all about luck. And this character, who's a reanimated skeleton, finally visits this gate again, and it turns out to be his like dad's office, and it was like this big emotional thing. And then he rolls it, and he got a mixed success. So a full success. If you don't know Powered by the Apocalypse, it's instead of just a straight, you make the number or you don't. There's different variations of success, mixed success, and failure. On a mixed success, like, he has to take a bargain. So he had just learned all this stuff about his character's backstory from 1,000 years ago, and he had to forget all of it in order to live again. And like his whole mission, and this is me, I'm the a-hole that was like, hey, guess all that stuff you just got, like, sorry bud, like, you know your last name and that's it. And I got to like change his mission and all that stuff. It was a really cool scene, and in the chat you can see Clay Affinity. They're one of the players as well in that, and yeah, it was like one of those scenes where I just was like, especially when he mentioned, oh well, it's my dad's office, I just visited in a flashback. I was like, oh, that's so cool, you know. Anyways, I wasn't crying. Again, it was just my eyes were leaking.
Damn
Nice.
onion slicing ninjas.
Well, I mean, since we're doing DM stories, I'll throw one in for one of my players. My last long-running campaign, we were nearing the end. It had been going on for almost 5 years at this point. Relatively high-ish level, because we weren't playing super frequently. So I think they were 13th level at the time, D&D 5e, homebrew campaign. They had been making their way through the Underdark. They were in a dark dwarven fortress, and they were running from a horde of demons that had been unleashed. They're down a hallway, long hallway. NPCs had died. They're tapped out of spells. They bar the door, and they see a massive bridge ahead of them over a a large lava flow that leads them where they know they need to go. And that's when the giant winged demon rises up. And this is all laid out in Dwarven Forge and everything else on the table. And they had been playing for a while, and they made some questionable decisions. Let's just leave it at that. And the cleric was out in front, because that's what clerics do. And got picked up in the air by the demon and basically one-shotted. Went unconscious because reasons. And was flying in the air. And the hunter said, I'm going to shoot the demon. And the demon was kind of all messed up. And I said, are you sure? She said, yup. Rolled a nat 20, hit the demon, slaughtered the demon, then looked at where they were on the Dwarven Forge, which was right at the edge of the lava flow. And they were 20 feet up. And I said, okay, roll a d6. Odds you go in the lava, evens you don't. Rolled odds to go in the lava. What no one else could see at the table, and this is what made it beautiful, is there was a little outcropping right there on the map. So we had the cleric drop out of sight, and I took the cleric to the side and told him, look, man, you're okay for now, for a moment. You got 2 rounds. Let's see what they do. And the players, they're all freaking out. You know, they run over the edge. They see the cleric sliding into the lava, like his arm is burning. He's lost his magical shield. And one of the characters went lava diving for him and took obscene amounts of damage to pull him out, and managed to get the medicine check to stabilize him. And it was absolutely at the table epic. Right now, it's just kind of probably boring hearing me talk about it. But to everyone at the table, it was a nail biter, and it was probably my favorite almost death. Just because circumstance after circumstance after circumstance, and they still managed to pull through.
It wasn't boring at all. That was epic
Right.
to listen to.
Yep.
I think I'll have to slightly twist the question to find an answer for it. It's less about my character dying, but more about the last episode, the season finale, so to speak. So this is spoilers to Time Has Passed, as always, but if you guys want to follow that story, you can with our podcast. But anyways. So this was like just the epitome of like we are all this whole year-long campaign summing up. Obviously, it's very emotional. Waffles was giving us lots of exposition, and I was like tearing up and everything. And basically, we were ascending as a group into godhood, and not individual gods, but like the only way we did it was like we are a singular entity, all of the party together. So we were like, okay, great. Huge spoilers, I'm so sorry. And they gave us some time back on Galarian before like this ended. And he was like, okay, well, what do you guys want to call yourselves? We were like, give us some time to figure it out, like in character and out of character. Let us spend this time back in Galarian, and then when, we'll figure it out. So then everything's really emotional. We're all epic scene, rounding it all out together. And here we are at the end. We're once again in front of this, like on these podiums. And it's like, all right, guys, what is your name? And every single one of us forgot to even think about what to name us. And so we're like, yep, in canon, this final scene is us just arguing once again what we're going to be called. And I think that was just a beautiful way to kind of like end that out. It was great.
I like that a lot.
Right. So for mine, it was from the Aether and Steamworks game I'm playing now. This is pretty early on in the campaign. I'd say close to halfway. We were trying to make our way to the Dragon's Eye to figure out what was going on. And we got kind of stranded in a desert, ran out of like food and everything. And we just so happened to pass by a giant turtle that had a civilization on its back. So these were just desert nomads that traveled on this turtle. So we managed to, get up on the turtle, and we were trying to get, resupply and whatnot. And my character is the gifted class, which think warlock, but more nefarious. Like my patron in my particular story, my patron is my dad because I have a like a lizard man mother, and then a fire elemental father. So he is my patron, giving me powers and whatnot. But his whole purpose for doing so is to pretty much mold me into the proper vessel, so he can kill me, take my body over, and be reborn. So I'm constantly having issues with fighting back. It's a struggle. So we're on top of this this turtle, and one of my other characters, one of the other characters in my party tries to like alleviate some of the pain from the death mage that we have. It ends up being infected by some of that death magic, so she turns berserk and she just starts attacking everyone on the turtle. So we're trying to stop her and do all this stuff. And in this game, if you use your powers, like say you have a lightning bolt that travels 15 feet. If you want to push it to like 30 feet or something like that, push it way past what it's supposed to, you have to do a chaos roll. And if you roll lower than a certain amount set by the DM, then you enact chaos magic. And the chaos magic it's like wild magic pretty much. So I forgot who it was who did it, but somebody did the chaos roll, failed, and when they rolled on the table, it said you summon the strongest eternal in the area. Just so happened to be my dad. So now this massive fire elemental appears and just starts wrecking shop. So we're trying to battle him, and I got the bright idea. I was like, all right, I'm going to launch myself at him, and as soon as I hit him, I want to reabsorb him into myself. So they do that. I managed to grab him, and I roll and pass, and so I'm absorbing him back. And in his final moments, he summons a gargantuan fireball and just like as he's being absorbed, he's like, ha, and just drops it on top of the party. In the game, you have quirks. My quirk is monkey paw. So I get 3 wishes the entire game, but those wishes turn out like it's I get my wish, but there's a terrible consequence for it. So I looked at the situation. Most of my party was hurt on death's door, and I popped the first monkey paw, and I said, I want to dissipate the fireball. So it happened. And we survived, we made it out, but then one of the characters, the one who went berserk, her brother that she was trying to find, he ended up coming really close to death. Like if this encounter didn't happen, we probably would have found him right then, but because of it, he got lost and like fell down a cavern, shattered a leg. It was bad. And it was like if I wouldn't have made that monkey paw wish, I guarantee 2 or 3 of my party members would have just been vaporized. So that was intense.
Nice. It sounds like so crazy to be a part of.
Oh, it's amazing. It's just constant action.
Well, can I ask you guys a question? I'm curious.
Go for it.
Kind of piggybacking off that, do you ever feel guilty, as at least to the DMs in the group at least? Do you ever feel bad when you kill a character off? Like, are you guys like it's just up to the dice and it is what it is, or do you feel? I mean, of course you feel a little remorse, but I mean, is it a problem for you guys as DMs when you straight up murder a PC, or are you fine with it because that's part of the game? Just curious.
Murder.
If you don't have the consequence of death, then what's the point of the game?
I agree.
Other than that, it's just everybody running around. I'm gonna slap this troll. and then run off. No, like you need to know consequences have actions, and I've killed off characters as a DM, and I've had my characters killed off. I know other people, like in games, there's been death, and sometimes that helps propel the story. That creates certain just like bonding moments or memories that just make it an amazing game.
Absolutely. I'll answer it as not a long-running GM at least, and still say yes. Like as a player, if it happens, it happens. Will I be sad? Yes. Like, do I care for my character? Yes. But do it, because the last thing I want is for the dice, like, there's no. I'll say it bluntly because I don't know any other way to say it. But like, I don't want when all the dice rolls happen and I am on death's door for you to pull punches or, you know, oh well, you know, do the Deus Ex Machina, like, or whatever other reason, because it cheapens the life of my character that they just lived. Like, I want those consequences and I want the depth, and at the same time I want from the other players to not just be like, oh crap, that just happened, and move on. Like, I want there to be depth on the other side as well, for sure.
Fair enough.
I will say, no, I don't feel bad whatsoever. My players know that, because anytime it's life or death, I will absolutely roll out in front of them. Like, if it's a big spell with a lot of damage, it's rolling out in front of you. If it's whether it hits or misses and you're at wounded 3 in Pathfinder, it's rolled out in front of you. Like, with the caveat that anytime I kill a level 1 or 2 character, I feel a little bad, just because it's the nature of TTRPGs to die at early levels, and I always work with my players very early, like for flashbacks and fleshing out story, and like I'm ready for stuff that's going to happen level 7 and 8, and then they die at level 2. So like, I feel a little bad about that, especially running a show. Like, we get character art done and stuff, and then character dies at level 2. So I feel a little bad, but they still die. Like, so whatever.
So whatever.
Nox Batty just said in chat, I played my monthly game recently, and the brand new guy who had never played before died because he was trying to be dumb and play the hero, and he thought the DM was joking, and the rest of us were like, nah dude, you're dead, start thinking of a new character.
Yep.
Tough life.
Right?
Well, the
Learn as the new guy.
The reason I asked was, you know, I as someone who played way back in the day where, you know, 1E D&D, you died every week, basically. It was a meat grinder. A lot of the people that come in and a lot of people paying 5E now, the tone is very different. And I'm always curious as to kind of where people sit on that. You know, the whole story versus just, you know, whatever the die roll is Crom intended. You know, it just kind of one of those things. I'm just curious to hear what people say.
Yeah, I mean, as a GM, that's one of the reasons I wanted to switch to Pathfinder, like from D&D 5e, is because in D&D 5e it's made for the story, and it's honestly so hard to die unless you're trying to kill somebody. Like, it's not really no offense against 5e, it's an amazing game. We played it for a very long time, but unless I'm aiming to kill someone as a GM, they're probably not going to die.
Oh, it's tough. Yeah. Cool.
And then throw in Resurrection Magic, so.
There you go. It is interesting to hear the difference. We started playing Extinction Curse, which is a Paizo adventure path, and I'm so used to playing under Waffles for his homebrew like campaigns. So to switch to like a book and to just feel that difference of how deadly it is at early levels was interesting. It definitely changes how you play, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, no joke. Extinction Curse spoilers, heads up. But like level 2, they basically, it's like one day they get out of something, and for one day there's like 6 encounters set up. And so they have to go through 6 encounters in like a day, basically, just in this one little map. And it's, if you go here, this happens. If you go here, this happens. It's super deadly.
We're not meant to live after that.
I'm trying to think. if I have anything to add to this, but I don't really. I don't DM. Like, I've DM'd once in my life and it was a disaster. So that was also like 10 years ago.
All right, you heard it here. She needs to DM a one shot.
Oh,
Yep.
no, that's one of my
That's what
goals
I'm
this year
hearing.
is to write and DM
Luna's
a one shot.
DMing all of us.
So,
Yeah.
Surprise!
There you go.
This isn't Tales from the Tavern. Luna, go.
I too would like to subscribe.
okay, you're all in a tavern
Being interviewed.
and go.
If you don't mind, Luna, I will also piggyback on this question.
Yeah, go
I
for
want to
it.
add a quick part to the question.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever had to or needed to, etc., basically Deus Ex Machina kill somebody? Like, no dice rolls, you made such a bad decision, you're dead.
Ooh.
Not to that extent. I said this last time. I DM'd a home game, and I made the mistake of DMing and playing one of the party members.
Okay.
So yeah. So I was like, real quick, I was like, I don't want to keep doing this. I do not want to keep doing this. So we got into a battle, and it just so happened that he was downed. And I was like, yes, thank goodness we're done. He is out. Smooth transition. Well, the paladin was like, oh, I want to lay hands on him and bring him back. And I was like, God, all right, you can try and bring him back. Roll a d20. And I'm like, just roll it, as long as you don't roll a 1, you're fine. He rolls, and he rolls a 1. And I was like, cool. So you gather all that magic energy up. You place your hands on the bard's head and focusing, and a little bit of dust hits your nose, and you sneeze and hear a crack.
Wow.
And he just stops you like, what do you mean I heard a crack? I was like, and the color in life fades from his body. He's like, oh,
Dang.
well, you did it. And I was able to just get rid of him like that.
Well,
I think for me, the only time I've done the Deus Ex Machina kill was when I knew that a player wanted to retire a character and couldn't really find a good way to do it. So rather than them struggle over it, I just fudged a couple die rolls for them to make it happen, just because it worked for the story and what they wanted to do.
For sure.
Yeah, so all of a sudden the Mind Flayer that got that grapple and that killing bite to the head, and that player went away. And it worked great, because if I was going to roll it out, back to your point with 5e, like, might have happened, might not have happened, didn't know. So I was just like, screw it. Dunzos.
Yep.
Is there a preference? I guess it's not just for the GMs out there, but in terms of that, like, if a person either has to leave the campaign or wants to retire their character, both as a player and as a GM, like, do you have a preference as to how that goes down? Like, do you want to die off as a hero, or do you want, like, them to live a life, like, to still tell your character story? Because obviously every person's, like, put time and effort into your background and your story.
110%. If it's my choice as a character, basically, it sounds weird, but if it's my choice as a character and not just dying from a fight, then I want to make the choice, if that makes sense. I want to make the choice that, like, if I look at my GM and I go, I'm going to run in there and attempt to save that person, and the GM says, there's no way. Well, then I do it anyway, and then my character dies. I'm fine with it. Or if I want to retire, if I'm level 2 and I'm like, I want to go be a shop owner, then that's what I want to do. But I'm not gonna, at level 4, I'm not gonna be like, hey, I want to retire my character, can you figure out a way? Like, it's usually gonna be my choice on how it happens, I think.
yeah, I would agree with that. I've had a couple of characters in the last couple of years that I've been like, you know what? This is the type of character, especially a character I was playing before now. She was a halfling rogue, and She was very much of the mindset of like, whatever happens, happens. I'm going to do this my way. And, you know, if I go down fighting, then at least I went out doing what I love, you know? So, and she didn't, like, she didn't die, but she definitely got close a few times, so. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we are at the hour mark, so I think we're going to take a quick break and let everybody refill their drinks and all of that good stuff. So we will be back in just a few minutes, and we have a bunch of questions to get us started in for after the break. So if we haven't answered your question yet, I have it. We will answer it. We're just going to take a quick pause, and we will be back in like 5 or so minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. everything. All right, we are back. Yay!
Yay!
Yay. Striking poses.
We came back from, or we started a stream one night where everybody got like right up in the camera like this, and it was hilarious. That was a good time. Let's see. All right, I am going back to some of the questions. I hope everybody had a good break, had the chance to refill drinks and anything they needed to do. So let's see. We have a couple of questions that we haven't gotten to get to yet. So let's see. We got that one. So we're going to go, let's see. The next one is from Zeal Zaddy again. Which of your real-life personal traits or ideals can you not seem to eliminate from characters that you play? I like that question a lot.
I feel attacked.
Right? I know.
Why?
I feel majorly attacked.
Why are we doing this right now?
You know, there's
When you
a
play
reason
so many NPCs and they're all the same.
the reason none of my players are smart. And I guess that's my answer right there. All of my players are pretty dumb, and I can't seem to shake it. Honestly, yeah, I think most of my characters lean towards like good. Like I have trouble being playing like bad characters. Like people are a little shady. Like a little shady's fine, but maybe it's just a weakness in my role playing. But I sometimes struggle with like, oh, you know what? This is a good opportunity for this shady character to backstab another PC, or or an NPC, or do something really negative. I struggle really hard with that. Yeah, so all my characters are pretty much good. Yeah, I forgot the question for a second. Sorry, my brain.
It's all good.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, they're always usually pretty good. I think. Yeah, that's my answer.
Fair.
Terrible. I'm sorry, but yeah.
No, it's a good answer. I think it's hard for me to okay. I love, as a person, puzzles and riddles and like intelligence-based things. And if I play not headstrong but muscle strong characters or something like that, like I can't resist. Like I think of all these things and I'm like, oh, you should try. Oh, my character wouldn't do that, but I really want it. Like, I just can't resist at that point. It's really rough for me. So I try for longer campaigns to play at least like mildly intelligent, or at least like wise, or some aspect that I can play it off if that comes into play. Just for ease of like myself, because I want to be in character. Like I don't want to constantly break that.
I don't have that issue. I'm good. All my characters are completely different, and there's definitely no running theme of them probably being sarcastic assholes with daddy issues. So, I can't really answer that. Yes.
Sounds legit.
Yeah. Yeah, complete.
Next question, I guess, right?
All right. Glad we had that talk.
I will just add for Waffles and talking about how all his NPCs are the same. I will say that there was a running gag in the previous campaign that everybody just shrugged and nodded. That's it. Shrug, nod, guards. That person shrugged and nodded. Great. That's everybody.
Yep. I blame my players for constantly going to all the background NPC. They're like, well, what about like what's this guy say? I was like, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna talk a full conversation to him, he shrugs and nods.
That's it.
And then the four behind him, quartet, shrug and nod.
In perfect simultaneous synchronization.
They all make like that ASCII emoji.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The one that I love to use on Discord all the time.
I think it's hard though when you don't aren't able to do a lot of different accents, to do a lot of variety. It's not represented at least. Sorry.
All of my accents come out as monotone Southern accents, no matter what I try to do. So.
I think the accent thing is kind of overrated. Like I mean, it's great if you can do it, and I have my backpack full of accents that I pull out for NPCs. But I mean, if you can just change their mannerisms and the way they the words they use and the intensity of how you speak, you can really convey a lot without having to be a voice actor type person. I think people worry about that too much, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's that monotone part of what I was saying, though. coming from the south. So this is little backdrop to me coming from the south. I was brought up that southern accents make you sound stupid, and so when I joined the military, it was get rid of your southern accent so you don't sound stupid. The best way to do that, I learned very quickly, was to be monotone. And therefore, like, it's so embedded in my brain. Like, you hear what I sound like now, and I have a slight southern accent. You can probably pick it up. Up this to like Texas meets Louisiana times 10, and that's what I used to be. Like, I was 20 years in Alabama.
And I will clarify, like, I think this is something that we discussed recently and kind of like found out. It's not, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not that you chose to be monotone. It's simply that in trying to suppress the southern accent, it comes off that way.
Yeah, basically. Like, there's no, like, when I get animated, I get southern. If that makes any sense.
No, it does. My wife does the same thing. She's from Texas, and she has almost no accent unless she gets really mad, and then she's from Texas. Yeah.
If I start getting really hyper, I start dropping R's at the end of words and taking them out of words because I'm from New England. So
I have the wildest like change of accents because I'm very empathetic in my speech.
Yes.
It's really weird. So like if I'm around a group of British people or something, like I feel so bad because it's just instinctual and I'm not trying to sometimes, and I'm like, I promise I'm not making fun of you, like I'm not trying to do that when I'm speaking. But my I'm Israeli, my parents are from Israel, and both of them have very different accents when they speak English. Interestingly, I don't know why. I think that my mom was raised a little bit when she was younger in England, so she has a slightly different change to her when she speaks English, and then my dad has something else too, and so like I hear that. I was raised in New Jersey, so I have a Jersey accent, and then I've been with this guy for so long, I hear the southern, like I don't know what kind of accent I have.
If you don't mind, I have a question kind of piggybacking off that.
Yeah.
Lots of piggybacking tonight. It's great.
yeah, it's good.
Supporting each other, lifting everyone up on our shoulders.
Yeah.
So the question was, paraphrasing, like, what are some things that you find yourself doing constantly? My question is, as players or I'm sure as DMs, it happens a lot. Do you find yourself picking traits that you find are very weak within yourself and trying to portray them in a character? I have an example that I'll share, but I want to hear from you guys first. Does that make sense?
It does.
No, yeah, it makes sense.
My favorite and hardest to try to do, and this is more on me being a GM and knowing everything that's going on than my actual brain, but my favorite and hardest that I try to do is naivety. Like someone, like an NPC being so naive that they don't know something, or they just can't, like, they don't understand what's going on, or they're just so goody two-shoe or whatever. Like, knowing everything as a GM, I think that's very hard to play up, and I like to try to.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
I think for me, it depends on the group I'm playing with. Very much. If it is a group of what I would consider serious role players that are all going to really dig into their character, I'm much more apt to try something new and different and maybe break into something else and really dig into something that isn't like me at all. If it's a group of people that maybe are just playing to have fun and things like that, I tend to default to, the 3 or 4 piggyback questions ago, like, do I have the same shtick that I follow? Yeah, if it's that type of a group, I'm playing the face man, I'm talking, I'm, high charisma, high dex, swashbuckler, bardish type, just because that's easy. It's easy for me to do, it's comfortable, there's no vulnerability to it. But if I am playing with a group of people that really want to dig in, I do like finding new things to explore. But I don't want to do that if I'm the only guy at the table doing that, if that makes sense.
That's
Yeah.
completely fair, yeah. I think for me, it's, especially when I'm doing like prep for a PC or for like a big campaign, like right now for our Starfinder campaign, like we as a group are all building our PCs for it, and I take longer than a lot of people, I feel like, to build characters, even for one-shots, because I need to find whatever thing that I'm latching onto, and I know that I want it to be different. So whether that is a mishmash of tropes that I pull, or a template that I go off of, I'm like, oh, you know what? I watched this show. This guy has a really interesting dynamic. Like, what if I pull this facet and apply it to my character? So I try always to find something unique about a character, so I'm not playing the same template or something over again. But that's difficult and takes time. So like, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, one-shot character, okay, super cool, I'll pull this random one. There's some that I can absolutely fall back on, like what Jeff was saying. Like, yeah, I'm high charisma, like, as a person, so yeah, I can easily jump into those shoes, no problem. But I want something more deeper and dynamic than that, so I try to find something to template off of sometimes.
For one-shots, I can, for the most part, kind of just pull from anywhere. And most of the time when I'm not playing games, I'll sit and think to myself and be like, man, what kind of character would I love to play randomly? And then I just kind of store those in a bank in my head. And so when somebody's like, hey, you want to do a one-shot? I'm like, sweet. Let me go through the Rolodex and just grab one of these random things and I'm good to go. But for like a long game, a game that's going to last a while, I've been trying my hardest to keep everybody apart, but I don't know if it's just me or if anyone else is seeing this, but I see them all kind of converging into the same person. Or maybe it's just when I start the characters, I subconsciously take a part of me out and use that. Take this part and use that. Take this part and use that. And then as they're playing, I lose the line between them and me. And then I can think, like, I put myself in a situation. I'm like, oh, well, I know what it is. No. It's like I just start putting myself in that position, and it's just, I just so happen to have these abilities in this reality that we're playing in, so how would I think it? And I think that sometimes hurts me because I've been kind of reluctant to play certain extreme characters. Like I haven't played an extremely dumb or an extremely smart character because I don't know. I can't really answer why I haven't. I guess I'm afraid that instead of sticking to that mindset, it's all going to converge back to just regular me and then not fully portray the character correctly.
It's hard to play super smart characters or characters that are smarter than you.
Yep.
Like that's one of the hardest things in role-playing games because there's no mechanic for it. You can always dumb yourself down, but trying to be smarter than yourself, like I don't even know how you do that. How it's awkward and painful, and I hate it.
Yeah, the biggest problem with it. So I played a 20 intelligence wizard, probably one of my favorite characters I've ever played, and I very quickly found that the mechanic for it that you're talking about is not fun. It's all right. Can I make an intelligence roll? Because I don't know it.
Yeah.
Like I personally am not that smart. Yeah.
I think it involves a lot of trust with your GM at that point as well. To like you have a good dynamic with them and you're able to say like whether that's between sessions or something like that where you talk to them and be like, all right, this came up in session today. I feel like my character would know X amount. Like what can we discuss together? But that's not always possible as well, like in the moment or things like that. So yeah, a lot of those roles and stuff. But Bees, like I feel you on the being scared to do that. At the same time, I feel like, and obviously high intelligence, one of those extremes we just talked about, why it's so difficult, but I feel like sometimes the best way for me to do that is to go to an extreme. I'm scared that if I do a shift in the middle, I won't even notice that I shift back to myself.
Yeah.
But if I jump into an extreme, and that's what I talk about when I grab like a template or a trope or something to hold on to, I pick like these top 3 things that are what my character is about at the moment. Those can change as character development happens, and that's really important to remember. But like, just because your character changes doesn't mean that you're slipping, right? Like you could be like an asshole character, and then stuff happens. That doesn't mean that you're not playing true to your template. But it helps to have very, very strong like things to template off of that you're like trying to aim for, and to go to that extreme, because it's easier to notice when you're slipping.
For sure. That's the important part, right? Like, even if all your characters end up the same, if you're having fun and it's what you really think the character would do, then you're not doing anything wrong, right? Like,
yeah. I think it's a hard it's a hard I'm forgetting the right word for it, but like thing in the environment right now with people and playing TTRPGs that are like, that's not in character. Like, only you can decide that.
yeah, these aren't pre-written book characters that you have to that they have a predefined ending. Like, you're developing the character as you play and roll dice.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
TLD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will skip on to the next question. We got one from DM's Treehouse. What is something you dislike about TTRPGs? They're expensive.
Nothing.
That's what I dislike. They cost me a lot of
That
money.
is a good answer.
I'll throw it out there. No matter, and everyone will say, oh no, there's this thing over here. Oh no, there's this thing over there. I will challenge anyone who says that. There is no good system or way to really efficiently and quickly show people how to play TTRPGs in a way that isn't overwhelming and daunting to new players. It's just such an in-depth hobby that even the simplest systems require such an investment of time and resources that it creates it's an automatic gatekeeper. It gatekeeps itself. Like, and it's frustrating. It's very easy to introduce someone to a board game. You read the rules, you play it. You play a couple turns, and people are like, "Oh, I got it now." Okay, you can go about playing it. Yep. Man, you're like, "Okay, we're going to play this role-playing game. So we're going to get these books, and we're going to get these dice. Now you really think about a character and what you want to do." And people's heads explode. And there just doesn't seem to be a great way of introducing people. That's what I don't like about them, because they're so much fun, and it's hard to prove to people that they're so much fun.
Yes, 100%. I still remember when we got into, like, when I decided to get into D&D. I was like, what am I getting myself into? I can't handle this. This is so much. Like, it was a lot, because I didn't have anybody to teach it to me. I just like wanted to do it myself. I was like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, I'm a sit down, like I'm a sit down and learn at the table as I go kind of player. And like literally that's how I've played Pathfinder 1st edition for almost 2 years without having a rule book. Is I learned it by playing it and then looking up the stuff that I needed to online. So that's for me when somebody then says like, "Oh, could you teach me how to play?" I'm like, "Yep, let me get a group together and we'll sit down at the table." And and we'll show you how to do it. Like, we'll get a game together and you're just gonna have to bumble through it until you sort of get the hang of how to do it,
There's no learning it before playing it.
Yeah, you could read the rules and you could know all the rules, and that still doesn't mean you know how to play.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
I have found
weird
that
to think about.
Finding streams or podcasts that do the system that you want to play has helped me personally quite a bit. Going from like I'm very new to Dungeon World, and I was just like, all right, I'm going to find some podcasts, and I feel like I had a basic understanding of the game before going in, and then yes, just farted all over the floor when we first started trying to play, but eventually you pick it up,
But you were already a tabletop role-playing game aficionado. It's the first one. That's where the problem lies. Once you've got it, finding a different systems, I agree with you. It's trying to convince someone that investing 4 hours with a group of people rolling dice, that's a tough sell.
I've been trying to get my wife to play for years. Just, what, am I going to fight a goblin? Like, what? Like, yeah, it's going to be really cool. Like,
are you trying to get her to do it while wearing that hat? That might be the issue. Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about. Listen, where I'm from, this is a pretty good hat, okay? It's a nice hat. You just get cold, you put down the flaps, you go snow blow the driveway, it's good.
Problem is, you need to wear the hat and nothing else when you answer.
Okay.
You're messing.
Oh gosh.
I would say my least favorite thing about TTRPGs, and it's my least favorite and probably close to my favorite, but is that they're so different and it's so hard to find the right group. So like if you don't have the right group and you sit down to play D&D 5e, like even now, me knowing D&D 5e is a good game, if I sit down with the wrong group, it's not fun.
Yep.
If I sit down with the right group, I can play for 10 years in a row.
Yep.
And like I think that's the hardest part. Like if I sit down to play Cyberpunk alone, I'm like I'll go for a year. Like cuz it's just a video game. But TTRPGs, you have to find the right group of people, and I think that takes as much time as it does like looking up the game rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing kills it more than a group that just butts heads and doesn't.
I have a lot of friends from like my high school and things like that. Like every time we reconnect and they hear like the world that I'm in TTRPGs, the amount of times that I've heard, oh yeah, I tried to play that once, but it's not for me. Like I know them. They've been my friends for a very long time. They're fantasy nerds. They're all this stuff. Like they are like this is a game for you. I would put money down that you just had a bad group.
Yeah.
And it's just it's really hard to. It doesn't matter how much I tell them that. Like, they don't believe me. It's really hard to, like, once you've had that experience and to get past it.
Yeah, like a video game, you can't say, you just had the wrong controller. A book, you say, you're just reading in the wrong language. But, like, so no one understands it. Like, no one understands that you just had the wrong group. It doesn't translate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have to say that one of the things I hate the most about TTRPGs are battles, like fights. How sometimes in again, this is also depending who, but in a lot of these a lot of the ones I've played before, mainly 5e, the like going through a round of combat can take quite a bit. And I noticed after I've been introduced to a lot of these other TTRPGs, I've noticed that is streamlined in a lot of them, where you can still do what you need to, but it's not, all right, I want to fire this arrow, but I'm going to use my +4 bow, and then I also have the sharp shot. I also need to add +2 because I have the pinky ring of I hate people, and then I have 2 toe rings,
I have that ring too.
But my right toe ring activates before I shoot, my left toe ring activates after I shoot, so then that's going to be another, and just keep going on, and you're just like,
I can see the Pathfinder people getting excited over that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not wholly inaccurate.
Go on. But that's one thing I like about the game I'm in Mondays, Aether and Steamworks. Combat goes quick, and I love it. And kind of again, Luna, you can tell me if for since you're brand new to it, when Ty was explaining everything in our call, it wasn't that long of a call.
No, I think the call was lengthier because we were goofing off and going like on random tangents than it was actually going over the material.
Exactly. So it's a pretty simple system to learn, and it just gives you a lot of creativity, and that's what I'm about playing. So far, out of all the systems I've played, that has given me the most fulfillment out of my games. And second would be probably Monster Hearts. That's just craziness. But yeah, like the A-Frame Steamworks, it's combat's like that. Like, what are you going to do? You got two things to do, make it happen. Either you're rolling chaos or you're rolling an attack. Boom.
Do it.
To be honest, that's why I love Pathfinder 2E, is they have this thing called a 3-action system, and basically you get 3 actions: move, attack, move and do a spell that's 2 actions. Like, whatever you want to do, you have 3 actions. Period. No, there's no swift actions, no bonus actions. Just you have 3 actions. Go.
I like that. Yeah,
it made a huge difference in the gameplay. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But there is still a lot of chunkiness with the numbers. Like
the numbers, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. We kind of had a chat about virtual tabletops versus in-person playing, I think, over the break. And the one thing that I'm incredibly grateful for is that being on a VTT, the math is done for me.
Yes.
Because I don't think that would take so much longer.
Well, some people love that, right? Like, some people really love the math stuff, and some people really hate the math stuff. And it's nice that there's systems out there to kind of accommodate both types of players.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, that is all about finding the system for you.
Yeah, and the math stuff, too. My ex-husband attributes his growing up playing TTRPGs to being really good at math. And
I believe it.
And I, on the other hand, didn't start playing TTRPGs until I was in my mid-20s, and I suck at math. So,
that's fair. I grew up playing text-based multi-users Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
And I type so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. No, I hear ya. All right, let's see. Let's move on to Clay Affinity would like to know, would you all consider replacing a character death with a fate worse than death, that's in quotes, scenario instead?
If the PC wants it. That's my average answer. If the PC wants it, if they want their character to have a fate worse than death, very seldom am I gonna make them just not die. I will say the one time I did it was in a TPK, and that's because in the epilogue we just rounded up the world. My party TPK'd at level 11, and there were there was one character that didn't die, and I would say probably got a fate worse than death, but it's also a cool story, if that makes sense. They basically became a mook for the BBEG.
That sounds a lot like tone of your game too. Like, what are you going for? Because I feel like fate worse than death can be pretty heavy on a player. But also, I'm always a big proponent of the story, and if it's cool for the story, and if everyone agrees, right? I think that's a conversation you have, on the side,
cool
and make
factor.
sure everyone's if it's cool, let's do it. If it's cool, sure, right?
Yeah.
And I've my DMing has evolved quite a bit. I do a lot of this. I'm sorry, it's probably distracting. Has evolved quite a bit, and I've kind of learned to I really throw it back at the player's court a lot more than I probably should, but I really like it because most of the time the players come up with much cooler things than I can. So if that was the point, this would be a point where I'm like, if you have a cool idea for something, and most of the time, in my experience recently, they come up with stuff worse than I would have given them, and then I'm just like, hey, it's your idea, and this is great. So yeah, I think definitely doable as long as everyone's on the same page. I think you could come up with some very, very cool endings to arcs and player arcs and stuff like that. Heck yeah is my answer. Or not.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
I'll say sure. But on the caveat that, like, we kind of talked about earlier, like, oh man, you're a level 2-3 character and you just died to some bees. No.
Bees,
But
what
if-
did you do that for?
I want to know that story.
Bees.
And what am I supposed to do? Let them live? No.
But if it's, part of the main plot deep into it and you're at that point where it just adds to the story and then you have the cool factor, then yes.
I think the only time I would lean towards Fate Worse Than Death is if there was something story-wise that had been set up ahead of time. Character is suffering under or laboring under a curse, or has made a bad deal with a planar being back in the campaign and conveniently forgot about it, but I didn't because I keep track of that stuff. Those are the sort of consequences I think that, like earlier we were talking about, like there need to be consequences to action. So like if certain things have happened in the story and you're still out there swinging a sword without addressing this thing that very well could impact you, then in those sorts of a situation, I probably will Fate Worse Than Death a character, but I think that's the only time. Otherwise, it's just like I said, as the die rolls fall, and if you're dead, you're dead.
Yeah, I think that brings up the good point to clarify, like that it has to not come out of the blue.
Yeah,
Right.
I think I'm having a hard problem with the what is a Fate Worse Than Death, because I think a lot of PCs would be like, well, if I become the BBEG, that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
like, is that worse than death, really? Like,
well, I mean, I'll throw an example from my last campaign. I had a character. It was an interesting circumstance, right? So the character found a sword that I was planning on being a cursed artifact. That they were going to have to kind of figure out what they wanted to do, yada yada yada. But they were in this temple, this kind of half-submerged temple. The paladin finds this cursed sword, which ultimately was going to offer him a deal with the devil. The deal was you get 9 lives, essentially. It had 9 empty gems on it. It was called the Keeper of, what did I call it? It was like the Keeper of Debts. And if you went into death saves, instead of going into death saves, you would heal back up to 1 hit point and a gem would fill. And once they were all filled, your soul was his. So it was going to be this whole thing, right? But the character had it in his hand when a dragon attacked outside, and he ran out and got breath weaponed and killed immediately. So before there was an attunement or anything, so I went, yeah, that was your attunement. And I thrust it upon him that this was the deal. And so for him, like the Fate Worse Than Death, was coming for a long time. And I think that it in bringing something like that to the table, it allowed the character to explore some stuff that maybe they wouldn't have.
for sure.
Because I think they would have immediately turned away from that deal. So that's a Fate Worse Than Death. Like for a paladin to all of a sudden have his soul owned by a devil, like he would have rather died. So addressing that whole thing through the campaign became a big thing for him.
Yeah.
So those are the sorts of things when I think Fate Worse Than Death, that's what I think,
I think that's the perfect example.
Exactly, for sure.
Yeah, and I think a Fate Worse Than Death is definitely going to be character dependent. Like, you can't just say, okay, this is the overall Fate worse than Death, or it's always going to be whatever it is, It has to be very character specific.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for Jeff to do the thing.
Yeah.
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 I'm trying to think.
Bees, we already did the thing. Come on.
Yeah.
You gotta keep it
Let's
quick.
go, B.
I'm sorry. That's my fault. The yeahs have been given, so let's
No,
go.
come on, man.
Come on, man.
No, you yad, all right? That is a sacred contract.
Fair enough.
All right? Yes or
We're sorry.
Sorry.
yeah,
To answer now would be a Fate Worse Than Death.
exactly.
But bum.
Oh, gosh.
No, I mean, pretty much you guys covered it. Like, if it's something that I think if it moves the story forward, or not really, but adds like going to come back around later on in the story, I think is pretty interesting. Or if it's say they're kind of getting to that point where there's no drive with the party, and they're kind of just stagnant, and then something happens, and they're in prison somewhere, or they become a demon or something like that, somebody that was close to the party. So now that gives them the driving force to take on a new adventure or keep going in their endeavor or something like that. I believe that's a good cause for a fate worse than death.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for it. There we go. We're
All
good.
right.
Now it's official. Yeah.
So we've got a few more questions, and we've got like 15 minutes before we have to wrap up. Well, we really have like
Easy.
10
All right,
minutes
rapid
before we have to
fire
wrap up. So I would love to get through all of them. If we don't, it happens. What I've started doing is when we don't get through all the questions, I post them up on Twitter like within the next couple of days, so Twitter can answer like as a whole. So that's kind of fun. So the next one,
We'll be really quick with the yes.
Yeah. So let's go.
Yeah.
This one could be a one-word answer if everybody wanted it to be. Do you like to include holidays in your campaigns?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, the one yes.
Yes, honestly, yes. I think it brings out the world a lot. So yes.
Yep.
People don't think about time moving, and it like really brings that in.
Whether it's their version of Christmas or the king's birthday, like it helps a lot.
Yep.
There's one podcast that I listen to that they do birthdays for, like, they've done birthdays for the characters, but the other thing that I always really love is that the start of every episode they give the date, which I think is fantastic because it really gives the sense that time is moving and that sort of thing. So
I like that.
For sure.
I think that would have been awesome. I think it would have been very difficult for our Time Has Passed campaign. That is indicative of what it was all about, time travel.
Yeah. All right, so moving right along. Sanctum Cosplays would like to know, do you think romance has an appropriate place in TTRPGs, or do you think that it distracts from gameplay?
I met Waffles in a GT campaign. And so, yes, I do think there is a place for it. But no, I don't believe that it's always out of character either. But I think it was a huge set of lucky coincidences. We met on a Discord server, and now I have moved in with him. So I think that it can add a lot even outside of that. I think that you build relationship with your party members naturally because you're going through life or death situations with them. It doesn't have to be relationships with other party members. I know there's like some things with like, oh, you love this girl back home in this town type of thing. I think your character, you talk about fleshing out your character, you talk about having like dynamic characters that have feelings. You want death to have impact. Well, they have feelings, and therefore that type of stuff might happen as well. I don't think it needs to be like true love fantasy always, though. Like, I think that type of relationships can have dynamic as well. Like in the one that we had at Time Has Passed, my character was relatively young, and she just had a crush on one of the other characters throughout the thing, and he was like, no. And that was interesting to play out. So yeah.
I've had characters that have been in romantic situations, but they were, so it was kind of interesting. At the time, the Discord server that they were part of, that I say they because it was when I was on a different channel. So the Discord server that was affiliated with that channel had an RP channel in it, so we could RP, our characters could then RP with characters that our community had created, and they wanted to sort of insert non-canon characters into, and then what would happen is every week the DM would check in with me because I sort of ran that, and the DM would check in with me and say, okay, what happened in the RP channel, and then try to find a way to maybe feed some of that in to the storyline itself. And so my character's romantic relationship with a character that was in the RP channel became part of the canon and also became part of the main storyline. and it was really hardcore, and it got really emotional for my character because she basically watched his ship explode, which was devastating, but it was very cool. So, yeah.
I think there's definitely a place for it, but you have to be comfortable with your other players.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the default answer for all of this, right? But that being said, I think a good session 0 will set that up because one of my home, it's just a silly little story, but one of my home games, my first time DMing, I did not do a good enough session 0 with that. And here I am DMing for, 2 of my best friends and my brother-in-law. And I'm like, oh, hey, brother-in-law, I guess we're going to kiss in game. Like, this got weird.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't anticipating this. Like, okay. Like, it just got really awkward for me personally because I was like, wait, where's this going? I don't want to do this,
Yeah.
It was fine. It was funny. But, I think that's just a matter of it's up to your party and your players.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean that's always the answer, right? Like, is it the right space for it? Is it the right type of players for it? And do you my big thing with romance and stuff like that in tabletop role-playing games isn't their presence, it's how much time starts to get devoted to that stuff.
Yeah.
Which tends to make it a 2-person story and will detract from the other people at the table. As long as the spotlight moves appropriately, and if that's what you want to spend your spotlight time on, all for it. But just because your character is having a romance with another character doesn't mean you get additional spotlight time on the regular.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And just to kind of respond to Adam real quick, like with regards to setting expectations, I think like the expectations to set is like the level of role play, I suppose, that is put into it. Like, do you guys kiss in like whatever? That wasn't ever something that I was considering when I said like the yes to romance, because to me it's the dynamics that it forges, like, and the you talk about spotlights being shared. Like one of my favorite moments in the campaign that Waffles and I met in was when some of the other players came to me and questioned my loyalties in a moment of like hard decisions, like at this certain point of like, hey, this hard decision might need to be made. We need to know that you're going to make that hard decision with us or you're not coming on this mission. Like that type of thing is built off of that romance being in there.
Yep. I think very quick answer for me. I think there's a place for it. I think session 0s are highly important. And then I think I also, as a GM, my session 0 limit is there are games made for angst. If you want me to run one, whatever, we'll have that conversation. But as far as D&D goes, it's kiss and fade to black.
Yeah.
Like that's just how it goes.
Yeah, and Clay Affinity said in chat, establishing boundaries is so important, and I think that's essentially what we're all saying is, have the session 0, have that conversation, because your players may not even want it,
Yeah.
There's the lesson there. Have a good session 0, otherwise you'll be role-playing kissing your brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Yep.
Out of left field, which is fine. It came as a very much surprise.
There you go. And the more you know. And knowing is half the battle, and G.I. Joe, and all that. All right, we have one last question, and I think we will have just enough time to answer it, and then we will start wrapping up. Robert E. Crunch had a good one, and he wanted to know, how emotionally attached do you get to your characters?
Very much.
Yep. I try my best to get as attached as I can, because I think it makes a better character, a better story, and then if, like, basically anything that happens gets better if I'm emotionally attached to my character.
Yeah.
I want to get attached to my characters. I have to be in a campaign and a group that allows for that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like we talked about how like I build my characters and how I try to find a way to attach myself to be in their heads enough, but just because you start off that way doesn't mean that like if my decisions don't have impact in the campaign, if I try to make character decisions that are meaningful to me, but they don't get a reaction from other players or aren't, met in any way, I will have a hard time taking my character seriously enough to be fully emotionally invested.
Ooh, all right, I'll jump in. I'm going to take the dissenting opinion here, and I try to not get emotionally attached to my characters, and here's why. I approach it from as an actor, I approach things from that space. So I don't want the decisions that I'm having my character make be because I'm attached to the character. I want all the decisions to be true to the character. So while I love them all like my children, I try not to get attached to them because I want to be able to throw them away if that's what is appropriate for the story. And I'm afraid that if I get attached, I might be selfish and do stuff that's out of character to then preserve my, existence in that campaign.
That is
For
100% fair, and I have fallen into that trap before. You're right. That's a very valid reason.
Oh, I agree with you on that point, but touching back to what I said earlier about the character deaths, I get attached to my characters. I put myself into them, and I am my characters 100%. I love it. It's something that happens. I most of the time just can't control it. I do my best though whenever I'm making a decision to take a second or two out to do what you said. Am I doing this because I want the character to stay, or is this something they would do in this situation? And I think as long as you can separate that and understand that you're separating it and recognize when you're crossing that line, then I think it's fine to put yourself completely into that character and care for them. But if you know, and this is something you have to understand with yourself, you have to be real with yourself. If you don't know that line, then you can't put yourself that far into that character, because you will, like you said, decides to wait and let other people go in. But literally, the last 15 sessions, he's ran balls to the wall inside every dungeon we've come across. Why now? Sun's in his eyes. No.
Yeah, because I know he's gonna die. Now,
Nope.
can I get a quick round, real quick? Does that go for NPCs and PCs, or is it different for y'all?
I think that I get attached to I think it's probably what Jeff said. I get attached to the story of the character. I feel like that's really important to me personally, and sometimes that story gets cut short, but as long as it's in a really satisfying way, I'm totally okay with it. That being said, the flip side of that is sometimes I'm like, but it's not done yet, but I died. Oh, farts. It just it's a real bummer there. I'd like to think that I play my characters in a way that, is true to the story and the character. But I mean, yeah, it's like you said, it's a struggle not to root for your character too much and make a decision that is, your meta knowledge gets seeped into the character, and that's always something you need to struggle with. I struggle with, and as far as like DMing and NPCs, I'm always a fan of the NPCs, but I'm a bigger fan of the players and their characters, so I always figure their story takes precedence, unless an NPC's story like really could help elevate someone else.
Yeah.
I would prefer, like, when playing a character, I would prefer them dying in a meaningful way, helping out the party, doing something that's going to create that's putting that stamp in history, that show that they lived, that will live with the rest of their party forever, instead of being completely safe and living to the end of his days, dying 115, taking a deuce too hard, something like that. It's just, just that if he dies, he dies. It's just, this isn't a story of we're starting with characters, we want to end with characters every single game, because that's how we just have to do it. It's like a board game where you just you go back, you go forward, you go back, you go forward. No, this is telling a story of a group of people getting together. If somebody dies, that's part of that story.
I will say, though, that there, like we talked about earlier with the variety of TTRPGs, there are players who do not want character death, and that's how they want to play the game. And so if that's the case, then, you know, as long as you find a group that plays the way you like to play, then that's fine. But in a game established the way, like we have talked about all evening, with character death and consequences, then I think it's, like, really important to remember that the reason you love your character is because you're in their shoes, and to stick with that, basically, and remember that reasoning, and not, like you said, have it just be an anticlimactic, but they're alive forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. And on that note, it is time for us to wrap up. We're at that point in the night. I know. I could do this
It's
like
gone by so fast.
It does. It goes by super fast every week. So, yeah. Anyway, so what I'm going to have you guys do is I'm going to go back around again. I'm going to go in the reverse order from when we started and have you all, again, just remind us of who you are and, you know, where everybody can find you online and all that stuff. So, Syrup and Waffles, we'll start with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we have mentioned, our Pathfinder 2e campaign has wrapped up, and we are going to be delving very soon into Starfinder. We have not yet started that campaign. If you guys want to check out in podcast or YouTube the beginnings of our Time Has Passed campaign and kind of catch up on the story, now is an amazing time to do so. If you guys want to find us on Twitter, it's at Waffles Maple. And our bio link is our link tree where all the other places you can find us, our Discord where we hang out, all that good stuff. I won't list a bunch of handles at you right now. But we will be announcing soon, you know, when Starfinder is going to start rolling out, and we would love for you guys to join us on that journey. This will be our first time playing Starfinder, so we will be learning the rules system together with everybody. So I think it'll be a good time, and we're really excited. Waffles.
Yeah, she said everywhere to find us. Couple of reminders: we're making dice that will get rolled out into the public very soon for people to purchase. We're doing an artist take on it, I should say. So basically, you can commission dice as kind of like a theme or something, and you can tell us what you want, and then you get our take on the dice. Also,
like your PCs.
Yeah, like your PCs, or we've done hair coloring, like that kind of thing. Any kind of theme you really want done gets put into dice, and they become yours. Also, the one thing I want to mention is our Patreon. That's patreon.com/wafflesmaplesyrup. You can get a lot of stuff there, from maps to chances to play with us to, at our highest tier, you can get commissions from Syrup because she is an artist. Yeah, other than that, this has been an amazing panel, and we've been so happy to join all of you with it.
Yes, thank you guys so much for coming back and hanging out. I love getting to chillax with you guys, so this was fun. Yeah. And Jeff, we're gonna go to you next.
Okay, I'm Jeff Muller, otherwise known as the Mighty Jerd on all the socials, so you can follow me there. I don't have a Patreon, I don't make dice, I don't stream, but what I do, I said do. What I do is I act occasionally. So my latest movie, short film, The Forgotten, a horror fantasy film, is up on Amazon Prime. You can find a link to it in my pinned tweet if you're interested in that. Kind of support the whole, not really starving actor, but actor that's having a hard time finding work here on the East Coast. Yeah, that would be great. Check that out. And yes, this has been absolutely wonderful. Every time I get a chance to talk with the people Luna brings to the table, I get super jazzed, because just these are fantastic conversations. So thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'd love to come back a third time at some point.
Absolutely. We will definitely talk about doing that at some point in the future. Next, we'll go over to Adam.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully, I get to come back. That'd be great. I wear the hat. I'm on Twitter at Adam LaGrave. That's where you find me. I do some streaming on the Good Great Friends Twitch channel. That's myself and Kyle from the Bombarded podcast. We just play some games. It's a lot of fun. And then I'd like you to check out my podcast, DM's Treehouse. That is 4 different campaigns. I'm DMing one of them, and I'm a player in the other 3. Just real quick about those campaigns. The first one is Heritage. It's a masked campaign, teenage superheroes. It's more like an improvised audio drama. That, by the way, the editing spot on. DM's Treehouse in the chat right now. That's Cameron. Oh my gosh, he's a professional audio engineer. It's so good. If I don't, pat myself on the back, it's really him that does all the work. Next is Ascent, a classic 5e D&D campaign, and it's a ton of fun. I play a half giant named Bomba. And then my campaign is Poke World. That's a custom system that I made with Cameron. It's a 2d6 powered by the apocalypse. The players are the Pokemon, and it's a war-torn. It's pretty dark compared to Pokemon for sure. Talking about characters dying. And then finally, there's Retribution, a Western TTRPG. It's an AP and another custom system called The West, made by Cam, the DM. And I play Ricky Jones, Special Agent Ricky Jones. You gonna stop on by and take a listen. Anyways, that's all I got. Yeah.
Yeah. All I have in my head right now is this mental picture of like this really rough and gritty Pikachu who's like seeing some stuff.
Just Ryan Reynolds doing the Pikachu.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, special guest Ryan Reynolds.
Special guest Ryan Reynolds.
Couldn't afford him.
And last but absolutely not least, bees.
Hello, big bees, guys. Just want to quick piggyback. That DM's Treehouse, it's amazing. Check it out. But I am Big Bees. I'm on my Twitch channel, big_bees. I do, like I said, lots of scary games now. We're looking into getting more and more and more. Oh, I'm also doing a lot of VR because awesome ass people. So yeah, definitely check that out. I am playing in a one-shot on this wonderful channel next Friday. It's going to be amazing. Lots of intense situations. I play Mondays on the Dice Tyrants and the Dragons of Rulo, which is the Aether and Steamworks game that is fantastic. We're coming up on the end. It's literally just going to be non-stop battles and action from now on. We're not going to get a chance to rest. It's the finale. Shit's going. And then I also wanted to let everyone know, this is kind of it's just now being released into the public, that there is another game starting on the Dice Tyrant Sundays at 8:30 p.m. EST, 7:30 CST, called The Ascended. And I wrote this down real quick just so I wouldn't be like, so The Ascended is a story that follows individuals with human capabilities, led by a galactic AI unit that's tasked with discovering why the universal algorithm has been torn. Dimensional tears have been spotted by the Dimensional tears have been spotted by the Keepers, and it's up to the Ascended team to find out why. Everything is linked to the creation of the Ascension Serum and a maniacal madman known as Kronos, who's bent on ascending humanity to the godhood at any cost. And it is pretty much cyberpunk superheroes. And it is gonna be amazing. We did a couple mock runs through some missions, and yeah, the group we got is fantastic. I've seen the art for your character, and it's awesome. Yeah, it's fantastic. I was so happy with Ty for that. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I was trying to think if there was anything else, but no. On Twitter at BigBees_, and thank you again for having me on. Always a blast hanging out with you guys.
I know. I'm super excited that we were able to squeeze you in before your new stream starts. So that's great. And this is Shared Experience. We have Tales from the Tavern every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I had to think about that for a second. I had to math. And then on Wednesday nights, we have our Pathfinder First Edition campaign, 50 Shades of Crimson, and that is also at 8 p.m. Eastern. And like B said, on Friday, this coming Friday, the 15th, we are doing a one-shot of Aether and Steamworks. That will have me, Bees. It will have he goes by TT Benjamin on Twitter, but he is Benjamin, the DM of Lawful Great Adventures, and Atomic, who's also part of our channel. So, and then the whole thing will be GM'd by Lot Evenstar, Ty Burns, who is the creator of the game. So that should be a lot of fun. Please come check that out. That's going to be at 9 Eastern, so a little bit later for our normal start time. So. Yeah, if you're around on Fridays, please come and hang out with us. We've got some great characters and some very fun people coming to play that game. So we're going to go raid a channel. Hopefully they're still live.
We've heard some really awesome things about Ty, who's totally helping us out with some stuff for our campaigns.
Yes, he totally is. So, yeah, he is an amazing artist. He did all of our overlays. He did all of the art for this stream. He did, he's doing art for our upcoming Star Wars campaign. So, yeah, we keep him pretty busy. So, yeah. And that's pretty much it for us. So we will catch you all next Sunday night, right here again at 8 p.m. if we don't see you before. So have a wonderful evening.
Yeah.
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 Here we go. This is something that someone in chat, well, a couple people in chat, and Adam might get. But along with the yes, oi.
Oh,
Yeah. Oi,
yeah.
oi, oi.
Oh, yeah.
Oi, boy. Oi, oi.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys all so much, and we'll catch you again soon.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.